we have an environmental disaster of unparalleled proportions. And so as the President of the United States, what you do is you commandeer all the equipment BP is currently using in the Gulf. You bring in all the skimmer ships and large tankers capable of pumping up the deep water oil plumes. You release as many oil-eating microbes as it will take to consume the oil. And you let any people who wish to rescue affected animal life do so. And while all this is going on, you bring in all the top scientists, geologists, engineers, deep-sea oil and construction workers you can find to, between them, formulate a concise and workable method of capping this leaking well as quickly and as efficiently as possible. If there is some absurd pieces of legislation or some ridiculous corporate laws in place to prevent you from doing any of the above, then you write an executive order overturning them all. After all, you're the President, and this is the worst environmental disaster in history. And besides, since Adolf Bush enacted executive order after executive order, granting the President virtual dictatorial powers, there should be no problem with any of this. In short, folks, you do what's right, and you do what needs to be done to fix the problem, and you do it immediately, if not sooner. To even suggest that there are legal restraints preventing such action, I mean, what do you mean there are legal restraints? This is the Earth we're talking about. This is our world, for God's sake. I mean, legal restraints? Okay, well, let's look at these legal restraints. Point one, where did these legal restraints come from? Well, gee, folks, we made them up. That's it. Some corrupt corporate-serving bureaucrat made them up. That's it. I mean, so what if some corporate puppet made up some law that says when someone destroys our environment, we have to follow certain protocols? I mean, are you kidding me? What are we supposed to do? Oh, well, we'd better let the planet die around us because some scumbag made some squiggly lines on a piece of paper, called it law, and convinced everyone else that they had to go along with it. So one day we'll be able to look back with pride and satisfaction and say, well, we had to follow the rules, didn't we? Of course, we're all dead now, and so is the planet, but at least we followed the correct corporate protocols. I mean, get real, folks. Do what's right and fix the problem, and worry about the legalities later. And if the legal system says the people did the wrong thing by saving the world, then we can just arrest that judge who made that decision, and then we can arrest the scumbucket politician who enacted the legislation that put these protocols in place, because they're either completely insane or they simply wish to destroy the entire planet. And that's really about it for options in regard to that matter. And so, why has Obama not done any of the above? Well, unfortunately, the answer to that question is also glaringly obvious, folks. Obama has not done any of the above because Obama's first allegiances lie with corrupt corporate interests and not with the people of his nation. Obama has not done any of the above because Obama is a corporate puppet, folks, and as uncomfortable as it may be for some to come to terms with this fact, it nonetheless remains a simple and quite obvious fact. All we're really seeing from any political arena is talk of nationalising the oil companies, which is something that we definitely don't want because it would simply be another method to pave the way for carbon tax. I mean, sure, nationalise all of BP's equipment that you need to fix the spill until the problem's dealt with, but we certainly don't want to nationalise the oil companies. We don't need to give the government control of anything more than they already have. They already control way too much already, folks. They just don't give up, these people, do they? And as I've so often said, all the world is a stage. But even though all the world is a stage, sometimes the play doesn't quite go as planned, does it, folks? And I would suggest that such is the case with this oil leak. In fact, I think in creating this disaster, those responsible have in fact unleashed a beast upon the world, the scope of which is way beyond anything they could have imagined. It's a beast that they released and that they now really have absolutely no idea how to contain. There have been reports of yet another new leak, which would indicate that oil is hemorrhaging into the Gulf from quite possibly at least 3 separate locations now that are all connected to the Deepwater Horizon well shaft. Now, one might wonder how this could be possible. If the leak is simply coming from a failed blowout preventer, then even if it's being released from both the bent pipe at the top of the BOP and from 4 stories below the bent pipe on the actual ocean floor, then the oil must still be simply coming from that one general location and must still be localized to that general area, the area of the original well shaft, right? Well, unfortunately no, folks. The uncomfortable fact is that we may soon find leaks springing up in a number of places nearby, simply due to the nature of the Earth's crust. Let me try to explain it for you a little bit. You have this well shaft coming up from this oil field. You have a blowout preventer on top which is impeding the flow of this oil that's coming up. So it's not just totally hemorrhaging, there is a little bit of restriction on it. But this is under a lot of pressure, this oil. It's under an enormous amount of pressure. And so what you're going to find is that it's going to be finding little cracks in the sediment, and it's going to be making its way to the surface in other areas, and eventually you may end up with multiple oil leaks just pouring out of the ocean floor. And as uncomfortable as that is to come to terms with, it's actually very likely. Down the track a little bit, we may also see a subsidence of land, or at least ocean floor, and that's a whole another scenario which could lead to some very significant changes in the general area. Now I'm going to pause on the oil spill situation for the moment, though I'm likely to come back to it later if time permits, but I'll just leave it there for now because I would very much like to touch on the situation in Gaza. And right here at the start of the topic, I would very much like to offer my most heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of the innocent aid workers and true heroes who were murdered by Israeli forces in international waters. The boarding of the aid flotilla and subsequent murder of 11 aid workers and the wounding of around 50 others in Israel's blatant act of piracy and terrorism that it carried out in order to continue the blockade and systematic genocide that Israel is carrying out against Palestinians in Gaza can truly only be seen as the blatant act of international terrorism that it so clearly is. Indeed, such utter disregard for human life is unfortunately no more than what the world has come to expect from the terrorists and psychotic lunatics who are currently in charge of the Israeli government. In fact, I'll say right here, and hopefully express in the clearest possible terms, that Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, you, sir, are a psychotic terrorist scumbag who should go home to wherever it is in Western Europe that you came from and stop murdering innocent people in order to satisfy your own demented egotism. In fact, I challenge you to come on the show, Benny boy. Come on to the show and let's debate the legitimacy of the acts of international terrorism the Israeli government organization known to the world as Mossad has been conducting against innocent people for years. In fact, Mr. Netanyahu, I would actually like to challenge you to a debate on your sanity and even on your humanity, because I have trouble even viewing you as a human anymore, sir. I'm beginning to think that you are some kind of throwback, perhaps some kind of subspecies that has not yet climbed far enough up the evolutionary ladder to be classed as an actual human being yet. And I'm not talking about Jews or Israelis, Mr. Netanyahu. I'm talking about you. And I make no apologies for saying so. But I digress. I don't know. They get me mad, these people, folks. I mean, call me finicky, but I find mentally defective, ego-driven, psychopathic scumbags who condone mass murder to be somewhat offensive. The international aid flotilla that was heading to Gaza was a wonderful opportunity for an expression of human unity and a move towards peace and a tolerant world. The aid flotilla could have well been an opportunity for reflection and a way to end the hostility in Gaza, but unfortunately, and unfortunately quite predictably, Israel demonstrated its typical intolerance, its disregard for human life, and its obvious desire to continue and hopefully escalate the conflict by carrying out an act of piracy and illegally attacking and boarding the lead ship in international waters, thereby turning the event into an international crime. most likely to demonstrate to the world that there are no international laws that apply to Israel. And if there are, then Israel likes to show the world that it can ignore any law and carry out any crime it likes, and the rest of the world can do nothing about it. If anyone does speak out about it, then they are always, of course, ready to play their favourite anti-Semitic card.